is fighting hard to bring back our own traditional seeds, and we need to also know about how do we prepare our traditional foods and the like. So we have the Mizu Eco Care that is working together with the Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity. The two organizations are working together and they are here in Mambwe district and particularly in Mfuwe. So they have already staged an event that if you got it on the intro part, Mizu Eco Care, they're bringing to you the festival, the first ever festival that will be held here in Mambwe district. That is looking into you, that is looking at how do we work together with the community so that we go back to our forefathers' systems of cultivation. So with me, like I have told you, I'm the executive. I have the executive director, Mr. Piri Timothy, who is the executive director for Mizu Eco Care. Let me welcome Mr. Piri, and also he welcomes you. Mr. Piri, I welcome you to this program, and you can welcome the listeners out there.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Piri, and good evening to all the listeners out there.
So that is Mr. Piri, the executive director, that he will be featuring today on this special program that is an agricultural program, but it's basically talking about the conservation farming, where we'll be able to share more information about what is it that is supposed to be done and why are we supposed to be talking about these things today when we have already moved away from them. So, Mr. Piri, before we go anywhere, we go very deep into this program. Can you just highlight, can you tell the community of what is Mizu Eco Care? What is it all about and what is it? And uh, after telling that, then you will see how does Mizu EcoCare collaborate with the Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity.
Thank you so much for that question, Mr. Piri. So, Mizu Eco Care is an environmental conservation NGO registered with the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. It was founded by myself, Timothy Piri, and my brother, Innocent Piri, in March 2019. We focus on two things. The first thing we focus on is environmental advocacy. So wherever there are environmental problems or challenges across the country, we go there and basically try and tell the story of what's going on there. I can give examples of some of the advocacy stories we've told or tried to defend and represent the people affected.
Maybe before we reach to that far end, Mr. Piri, can you also tell us, because I know as you advocate for this, you also advocate together with the Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity. Also, can you highlight more about what is this Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity?
All right, I'll do so. So Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity, it's a network of NGOs across the entire country, in each province and in each district. So Mizo Eco Care is just one member out of many other members scattered across the country. This network promotes sustainable agriculture through agroecology. It defends the rights of small-scale farmers. It seeks ways to help small-scale farmers improve the productivity of their farming activities. It also finds ways to try and help them transition or move from conventional farming practices and sustainable farming practices to more sustainable and organic or regenerative farming practices. So basically, it's the type of farming that respects nature and tries to imitate nature instead of destroying nature in the process of growing things. So that's the background I would give to what ZAB is, the Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity.
That's the issue, dear listener, wherever you are. I hope you are following it clearly. And Mr. P is trying at least to elaborate issues here so that you have to know, you know where these things are coming from. Now, you started telling stories of what the advocates that you have made, and they would want to see if those advocates have been you yield positive results out of those advocates.
Uh, I'll, I'll do my best to give a brief narration of those activities we've conducted.
All right.
Yes, so the first one I was talking about is of an investor that went to get land near Kasanka National Park. Unfortunately, the land they got was partly in the game management area and also encroached into the national park itself. So we conducted some advocacy against that encroachment with the help of other NGOs. And there was actually a case taken to court by a partner of ours, Conservation Advocates Zambia, represented by Alisa and partners. We also organized a peaceful protest in Osaka from the Civic Center to the High Court. The first day this particular case was appearing in court. Unfortunately, that case is still in court as we speak right now. We've also done advocacy against the Mosotunia Radisson Blue Hotel in Livingston. You know, Livingston is our tourism capital. Unfortunately, the resort I'm talking about, the Radisson Blue Resort in Livingston, was built right at the confluence of the Malimba River and the Zambezi River. And this is an elephant corridor. Elephants used to collect at this particular confluence where these rivers meet. So there are two violations that that particular hotel made or the resort. The first one is it was supposed to start its construction 70 to 75 meters from the flood line. They started their construction activities 35 meters from the banks of the river. So that's the first violation against the decision letter from Zambia Environmental Management Agency that gave them permission to build there. The second violation, ZEMA made it clear to them that they should not build any electric fences blocking the path of the wildlife. They built electric fences. So we've been in communication with the hotel, we've written the letters, we've written letters to NAPSA, the owners of that particular hotel. They built it using pension funds for the people from the people of Zambia. We've been in touch with ZEMA itself over this issue, and we're still following up on that particular issue. We conducted advocacy against the Kangalui mine in Lower Zambezi National Park. It was planning to start operations there, but in collaboration with other CSOs or NGOs, we thought that that should not happen. Unfortunately, the then Minister for Green Economy and Environment, Honorable Nzovu, blocked that particular hotel from establishing itself in the Lower Zambezi National Park. And we did that because we wanted to protect the natural resources found in the Lower Zambezi National Park. Then I'll talk about a recent case. I'm sure you heard on the Copper Belt in Chambishi, a mine called Sino Metals, Leach Zambia Limited. It's telling dam burst in February this year. And the waste from that dam that burst got into the Mambashi River and found itself into the Kafue River and polluted the Kafue River downstream up to a distance of 150 kilometers. So we started communication with that particular company, asking them to compensate the small-scale farmers whose land was damaged, their water supply was totally polluted, and because communication failed, we eventually took that particular mine to court. And as we speak, we have a case against Sino Metals in court, together with small-scale farmers affected there and other NGOs as well. So that's a background to the advocacy that we've done so far. So some cases have been successful, some we're still pushing for justice, some are still in court.
All right, thank you so very much for the explanation. You did mention about the issues of encroachment. These issues of encroachment are everywhere around the country, and the Mfuwe particular, where you have chosen to work with the community here, they are not exemption from this situation. Are you in position of telling the people, or according to your investigation, what are the issues surrounding the issues of encroachment? What are the factors that influence issues of encroachment?
Thank you so much, Mr. Piri, for that question. You know, there is the national park where the animals are found.
Yes, please.
Then you have the game management area, which is the buffer zone for the national park. And in the game management area, you will find wildlife and you will also find people who are given the permission to settle there. They can build houses, they can conduct agricultural activities. So encroachment into the national park, from our experience, happens when people are desperate to earn a living. So when I'll give an example of small scale farmers who are the majority.
Yes, please.
If they don't make any profit from their farming activities, they have that pressure to still, support their children to school, put food on the table, make sure the family is taken care of. So they will find other alternatives for making money. Hence, they find themselves getting into the national park and trying to poach. They'll find themselves getting into the national park and making charcoal. That's encroaching into the national park. So the key driver of people seeking these other means of earning a living is because they are not making what they're supposed to make from the activity of farming or agriculture. And that's where we are coming in to say, you know what? There is a cheaper way of farming that can reduce your production costs, that can help you have something that resembles a profit at the end of the day. Apart from that, we also try and support small scale farmers to increase the diversity of their crops. You will notice that the majority of farmers are into monocropping. They focus so much on maize. And it's partly also because of the policies we have as a country. Food Reserve Agency will only buy white maize. That means these other crops won't get that much attention. When we talk about a bumper harvest in Zambia, it's rare that we refer to groundnuts, sunflower, tobacco. There are so many other crops of value, cash crops. But we only refer to maize when we are talking about a bumper harvest. And we want to change that mindset so that farmers can have a diversity of seeds, which translates to a diversity of crops, which also translates to a diversity of foods that they're able to eat and feed their families. More seeds automatically translates to much healthier, balanced diets. But if we focus so much on maize, you will discover that even our diets are dominated by nsima, nsima, nsima. The heap of nsima on the table will be enormous. The vegetables, small quantity, some beans or meat in small quantities. We're saying that shouldn't be the case. We can increase the quantity of veggies from which we get vitamins. We can increase the quantity of legumes or seeds that give us proteins. The reason why we have feeding programs in primary schools right now are supported by Mary's Meals is because children are not getting the needed nutrients from home. We're not producing enough food of variety that can give us balanced diets. So now we have to depend on a supplementary program run by government and an NGO to offer our children protein. It should not be like that. So to answer the original question, the key trigger for people getting into the national park to try and extract value from there is poverty and hunger. And we are saying through sustainable agriculture, through agroecology, it is possible to fight poverty and hunger. It is possible for us to become prosperous small scale farmers.
Thank you very much. So, how do you differentiate this situation? Because you are saying through this sustainable agriculture, at least we'll be able to lessen the burden of encroachment. If you are to compare the previous days, conservation did not just start today. Even some time back, was conservation of natural resources. We talk of the animals and like you mentioned. Even today, people are still talking about the conservation of these animals. Previously, our parents used to cultivate using traditional ways of cultivation, but this time they've shifted to the other one. How would you differentiate it? Do you think those days when our parents were using traditional practices in farming, there was less encroachment than if you compare with the situation today?
I believe there is a lot we can learn from our ancestors and our parents and grandparents.
Yes, please.
Yes. When you look at agroecology, it embraces the role of science in agriculture, as long as that role of science promotes sustainability. Where it disagrees with science is when science brings in solutions that damage the soil and the ecosystems. It also embraces traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge systems, as we call them. And you'll notice a lot of things that we practice, they are not new. They are things that our grandparents and their parents actually practiced. So I believe the original conservationists were actually our parents. I believe they were able to coexist with wildlife, and there is a lot we can learn from them today. The challenge we have today is, I think, the poverty levels are much, much higher. The population has increased tremendously, and the combination of those two means the pressure on people to try and survive increases, and they will risk doing things they are not supposed to do, including breaking the law to try and make ends meet. Hence, conservation seems much tougher to do now than before. But the good part about it is, we have various stakeholders that are trying to make sure that wildlife conservation and the involvement of communities is successful. South Luangwa National Park, for example, is the first sustainable national park in Africa. That's because of the work that NGOs are doing to try and help with wildlife conservation. But that work is not enough because the problems like poverty and hunger have not ended. So a lot still remains for us to do to maintain that status of South Luangwa National Park being one of the best national parks, not only in Zambia, but in Africa and also in the world.
Mr. Piri, what is your ratio? Maybe what I can say is, how is your coordination with the Minister of Agriculture? Your organization is the Minister of Agriculture that is standing for the government.
It's impossible to operate in a space like we do, connected to agricultural activities without collaborating with the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes, please.
So we work closely with the Ministry of Agriculture. There are certain things we work together on. There are certain things where we approach the ministry and say, we think we can change this. We think we can do better on this one. There are certain workshops where we'll disagree. I'll give you an example. Red, I was talking about the FISIP, the Farmer Input Supply Program, FISIP, which emphasizes maize, and the FRA only buys white maize. That's an example of something we don't agree on. But there are other things we agree on in terms of what practices connected to conservation farming we should be helping our farmers to learn. And the government is pushing the agenda of a green economy. It even created the whole new ministry when the current government came into power, called the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. And a critical part of Zambia achieving a green economy is about turning its agricultural sector into a green sector. And that means introducing conservation farming, introducing agroforestry, introducing agroecology. So that cannot happen unless we work hand in hand, not only with Ministry of Agriculture, but Ministry of Health, Forestry Department, Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. Like I mentioned, we collaborate with all the ministries in the activities that we carry out.
How easy was it for you to convince the Minister of Agriculture, which is government, where you start discussing with the farmers issues of traditional systems of farming. Because I happened to attend one of the meetings that an agricultural officer was telling the people, say, I'm not interested of what type of seed you how you read, but I want to know the type of seed that you are using. Are you using the local maize that your parents used to plant some time back, which he was so against, say you need to change understanding of methods of cultivating. You can't be going back to the traditional ways of cultivating. But now here you are coming and working in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, and then you are talking the opposite direction, because for them now they just tell the community, say, take farming as a business. And that is very true. Farming should take it to be a business if you want to achieve something else. If you don't take it that way, then no, maybe you just be there growing crops that will only last you for consumption and not to do anything else. But now you are bringing these issues. How easy has it been?
It's not an easy thing to do, and I think it's an ongoing process. I'll give you an example why it's not easy. When NGOs go to the Ministry of Agriculture and talk about conservation farming, um, Malibidwea ya Gampani,
Mhm.
that's the position they are trying to push because they want to respect the environment and they want to respect the fact that local communities need to improve in terms of the money they make from farming and reduce the damage caused to the soil and the ecosystems. However, the NGOs are not the only stakeholder. On the other side, you've got seed companies, you've got fertilizer companies that also have an agenda to push, and they also work with the same ministry. So if we talk about chemical fertilizers, they come from companies that make them. If we talk about hybrid seeds, they come from companies that make them. And the priority for those companies is profit. That brings in the third stakeholder. Apart from the NGOs, the seed companies, and the chemical fertilizer companies, we have the small scale farmers, who are the largest number of farmers we have in the country. The voice of the small scale farmers is very, very important. Unfortunately, as of now, I don't think small scale farmers have found their voice to help determine the future and fate of the agricultural sector. And that's where we're trying to work with small scale farmers to say, you know what, as small scale farmers, you have rights, what we call food sovereignty, what we call seed sovereignty. You have the right to land, you have the right to seeds, you have the right to make a profit from your agricultural activities, you have the right to clean water, you have the right to healthy and clean soils. And they need to bring that voice to the table and also engage the ministry. And I feel that's where we are behind. NGOs represent small scale farmers, but it's rare that the small scale farmers bring their own voice to the ministry and speak. And I feel the leadership of this country, the leadership in our district and in the province, will listen to the voice of the small scale farmers because they are a powerful stakeholder. We've got millions and millions of small scale farmers. The majority of the maize we are talking about and food we eat, staple food, is produced by the small scale farmers. They are doing it with so much difficulty. Imagine how much more maize will produce if the production costs for them actually reduces when they adopt their own local seeds, when they make their own organic manures using materials from within their communities, when they make their own organic pesticides. This is very hard for a commercial farmer to do because a commercial farmer is growing on a large scale, but it's very possible for a small scale farmer working with others as a community to actually achieve. So small scale farmers are a key stakeholder that should realize their power and also be part of these discussions with the ministries. They should not just wait for help from the ministry only during the rainy season when people are waiting for seeds and fertilizers. They should engage the ministry throughout the year and present their challenges and see how the ministry, in collaboration with NGOs, can help improve improve their status and livelihood.
There we are, dear listener. I hope you are following us clearly, though today will not give you a line so that you also participate. Otherwise, this is just an introductory part of the program. And for now, you allow us just to rest a bit. Then when we come back, I would want Mr. P to explain to us, to say, as much as we advocate for this system of cultivation, the old system of cultivation, the traditional way of cultivation, we should also say there are issues of climate change. How do you relate to this? Because when we talk of seed companies, Ministry of Agriculture, they're also looking at companies producing seeds that will be resilient to climate change or maybe to droughts and the like. Hopefully that will make a clear picture to the farmers that will be listening to this program right now. So let's pause a bit, then when we come back, we'll continue as you listen to this.